Welcome to the final week of the iSlam Winter 2019 regular season. The great news is that we have confirmed the 6 team who will be heading into the playoffs and are on their way to have a chance to hoist the cup. The bad news, to that we have to bid farewell to Iman and Sabr, who are both officially eliminated. As sad as this news is, many of the Sabr team are rejoicing as this may be the opportunity to play more than 2 shifts in a game. The players of the Iman wanted to give a special shout out to their GM Naeem, as despite Iman no longer in the playoffs run, he still showed up to last week's game. Moving forward, this week we have at 8 p.m. Ihsan vs Yaqeen. Ihsan, some say, angered the hockey gods as they had crushed Iman 9-2. But there is only one God, so whoever is speaking of these false gods needs to stop. With Ihsan's victory, that puts them firmly in the lead of their division. But their game against Yaqeen is important because a win from Yaqeen could have them secure the first place position and the bye heading into the playoff. A tough feat as Ihsan was clicking on all cylinders as they achieved 26 out of the 27 possible points amongst all their players in last week's victory. Now, Yaqeen played an impressive game against Shukr last week as they were able to rely less on their GM trio to secure the tie game. This shows that heading into the playoffs, that Yaqeen, a team that many felt lacked depth, will be able to confidently run all 3 lines this game will be a one tough team to play against. This game in itself will probably be a really tough game and it will set the pace for the playoffs to come. So I will have to say that both teams will be playing a little bit more defensively and this game will end up in a tie game. At 9 p.m. we have Haya vs Ikhlas. Haya has secured the number 1 spot in their division, so they can definitely spend this week resting their top lines. But that may not be the best idea. This would be a good opportunity for them to see how they fare against the second best team in the division, which is Ikhlas. The GM trio had an impressive game, but it was the work of the supporting cast like Ibrahim Butt who opened the scoring and paved the way to Haya's victory. Ikhlas, on the other hand, played an impressive game against Rida last week and seemed to be all but unstoppable going into the playoffs. This will definitely be a test of their temper and skill against the top-ranked team Haya. Ikhlas has been cruising along the game, not the games, but Haya has been cruising along, going from either being suspended or possibly suspended or just being ejected from a game for all their players. So this game should be a good emotion check for them. With that said, I think Ikhlas is looking to dominate and will be taking the W for this game. Haya will be looking to make adjustments to ensure that next time they meet Ikhlas that they can adapt to their strategy. At 10 p.m. we have Rida vs Sabr. Rida coming off a surprise loss last week to Ikhlas. So it's a bit surprising that when we asked some of the Rida players how last week's game went, they insisted that they had won. So powered with the power of delusion, Rida will be watching the Haya and Ikhlas game closely, as a loss from Ikhlas means that Rida can jump back into the second place in their division with a victory. The importance of this is that they do get the last shift change going into the playoffs and start on the home bench if they end up second in their division facing the third place team. Let's see if Sabr team decides to show up though.
You are the chosen one!
Speaking of Sabr, the team has performed well below everyone's expectations. A lot of feedback we are hearing is that the GM trio thought the strategy of playing half the game by themselves and distributing the rest of the minutes to the rest of the team was a recipe for victory. It looked like that completely backfired, and one questions the future of Yusuf and Waqar and if they plan to ever GM together again. With Sabr no longer to make the playoffs, we may see more playing time for the rest of their team, which I do believe will be a surprising result and will lead to a victory for Sabr. Absolutely shocking, but at the same time not shocking for the rest of the league. At 11 p.m., Shukr vs Iman. Shukr will be thinking this game will be the time to rest, as Iman is no longer in the playoff picture. But even a short bench last week, Iman put an impressive front for the first half of the game before completely collapsing in the second. Not to say that it was their own fault. They played with 0 subs that game. So, I mean, good on them for even holding on for the first half. Now, Schalke actually played a really impressive game last week as they were down 3-0 heading into the second period, and they managed to score 3 goals and tying the game up with 30 seconds remaining. Usman Butter put up points in each of those goals, so that's really impressive. The team will be using this game against Iman as a fine tune, making sure that they get the right strategy in place and ensuring that everyone knows their duty. Just come playoff time, it's only going to get harder from here as we don't expect Iman to put on too much of a pressure for these guys. Speaking of Iman, on the other hand, like I said, a lot of praise for GM Naeem, who showed up last week and led the remaining players who decided to show up. An impressive 2-point game from Salman and Abdur Nafia. Also, both players with solid 2-point games, 1 goal and 1 assist each. Although this will be the last week for Iman, they will never be forgotten. And that's primarily due to the many questionable trades they made this season. With that said, and the regular season coming to an end, I felt it was time to reveal the man behind the mask. The voice on the radio. Many of you have seen me walk around the arena, but none of you truly knew who was behind the mask. So for you, the listeners, the watchers.
So with that being said, I'm going to end my conversation and inshallah see you in the draft. All right,